The Cabinet Minister at the centre of allegations made public last Friday, but in circulation in Canberra since the middle of last year, has a face and a name, and a title. Christian Porter, the Attorney-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. And this afternoon, he was standing up to deny the most appalling of allegations.
So I just wanted to start by saying something to the parents who are grieving for the loss of their adult daughter. And I hope that whatever else happens from this point, that you will understand that in saying today that the things that are being claimed to have happened did not happen, that I do not mean to impose anything more upon your grief. But I hope that you will also understand that because what is being alleged did not happen, I must say so publicly.
An emotional Christian Porter today made an emphatic denial of rumours that have been circulating for months and specific gruesome allegations reported last Friday of a sexual assault on a 16-year-old girl when he was 17 in 1988. He says he doesn't remember much about that time, other than that the girl involved was an intelligent, bright and happy person, that there was a bowl of prawns in a university college, that she ironed the shirts of he and his fellow debaters, that there was a formal dinner and dancing. He says he would, of course, remember the allegation of sexual assault, but he doesn't, because it didn't happen. He attacked those who had been circulating the story and the media who had reported it, said he had effectively been put on public trial without a chance to defend himself, and rejected calls that he stand down.
No journalist has ever put the detail of the allegations to me in a way that would allow seeking a response. Not ever. All I know about the allegations is what I've read in the media.
Yet multiple media organisations refute this, saying they put questions to Porter's office as recently as yesterday about the allegations.
If I stand down from my position as Attorney-General because of an allegation about something that simply did not happen, then any person in Australia can lose their career, their job, their life's work based on nothing more than an accusation that appears in print. I am not standing down or aside.
Yet there remain so many questions about these allegations and whether Porter's statements today resolve them. For starters, why neither he nor the Prime Minister seemed to brief themselves on these most heinous allegations when they came to their attention last week.
Before last Friday, all I can say is that I had heard, I think about November last year, a rumour that was being spread by a small number of people that I had somehow offended against someone decades ago in a way that was never specified to me.
As Christian himself said, he started hearing about this, he said, last November. Then there was the Four Corners show, and it would be very surprising to me that he wasn't doing some serious work to understand what was being said, given that he knew the identity of the person involved and that he knows or is able to get in touch with many of the people from that relevant time.
Catherine Foley has known Christian Porter since their youth. She is a barrister with the Victorian Bar and is a part-time commissioner with the Victorian Law Reform Commission.
The debating world is a very small world and we all know each other, and Christian would still be in contact with people or able to be in contact with people from that time. It was surprising to me, shocking really, that he wouldn't have reached out to some of those people and sought some more information about these quite serious allegations. Whether information that's out there in the public domain that all of us have been reading, all through lawyers.
You would think there might still be merit for Porter as much as the rest of us in there being an independent, behind-closed-doors inquiry into these allegations, given their seriousness and the fact he is the country's first law officer. After all, this was the course decided upon by the High Court when serious allegations of sexual harassment were made against former High Court Judge Dyson Heydon.
It would be the first time in Australian history that a public figure or anyone effectively is put on trial in circumstances where they would be required to disprove something that didn't happen 33 years ago. And if that happened to me, all I could say is what I've said to you today, that it just didn't happen.
I was struck by the fact that he said, I think a couple of times, that in the context of such an inquiry, he would be required to disprove something that didn't happen. It's very odd for him to have said that. I can't imagine any context where an inquiry run, for example, by a former judge or by a Queen's Counsel would be expecting him to disprove allegations. For him as a trained lawyer and as the Attorney-General to have said that a number of times, I found that very surprising. Even though it would not be an allegation heard in a criminal context, there is no way that the onus of proof would be reversed.
The Dyson Heydon matter was about workplace relations accusations which were contemporaneous, required by health and safety laws. I don't know what it would achieve. Other people will be the judge of this.
No one is saying it's a precise analogy with the Dyson Heydon situation. Obviously there are differences. What is useful from the Dyson Heydon situation is a model where an independent person of the highest integrity and calibre is appointed in many situations, in law firms, for example, and in large companies, when a serious allegation is made, for example, against a senior law partner, one that won't be dealt with through the criminal courts, perhaps because the complainant doesn't want to go down that path. A process like this will be adopted. There's nothing extraordinary about that.
While the allegations are from long before Porter entered the Parliament, Kathleen Foley says it is a workplace issue.
I don't think we can divorce the allegations from the work that Christian Porter does, because as Attorney-General he is involved in lawmaking and law reform and dealing with the subject matter of sexual assault and sexual harassment. For example, the lawsuit that's been brought by the complainants in the Dyson Heydon case, if decisions are made by the Commonwealth in relation to settlement of that lawsuit, Christian Porter will be involved in that, if not the ultimate decision maker.
But so many realpolitik questions remain, and be in no doubt that politics lurked in Porter's statements today, with his early and repeated references to similar rape claims made a few years ago against the then opposition leader Bill Shorten. The Shorten claims were investigated by Victorian Police and dismissed. Just one of the questions for both the Attorney-General and the government, however, despite his emphatic denials, are: how can you be First Law Officer while a report on her tragic death, following conversations she had about him with New South Wales Police and numerous friends and public figures, is the subject of an investigation by South Australian Police on behalf of the South Australian Coroner? The South Australian Coroner said this afternoon that he regarded the investigation into the woman's death as incomplete, particularly having regard to information contained in recent media reports, and had requested the police undertake further investigations. The coroner, of course, is investigating the woman's death last year, not the allegations of rape. The problems for everyone in dealing with such allegations, and for the government in hoping they go away, is the backdrop of the broader debate about sexual assault, harassment and political culture. We have been repeatedly told that there is a need to start listening to and believing the survivors of sexual assault.
This is a learning process.
2 hours before Christian Porter began speaking today, Australian of the Year and advocate for survivors of sexual assault Grace Tame got up to speak at the National Press Club in Canberra.
It is so important for our nation, the whole world in fact, to listen to survivors' stories. Whilst they are disturbing to hear, the reality of what goes on behind closed doors is more so. And the more details we omit for fear of disturbance, the more we soften these crimes.
In January, Prime Minister Scott Morrison presented Grace Tame with the Australian of the Year award and stood beside her for photos. It seemed like survivors of sexual assault finally had a platform. Our leaders were seeing survivors needed to be believed. As far back as May 2019, he said,
one of the things that often happens with that is they're not believed and their stories are not believed. And it's important that their stories are believed and that they know that if they come forward, their stories will be believed.
But on Monday, the Prime Minister said this.
I had a discussion with the individual, as I said, who absolutely rejects these allegations. And so after having spoken to the Commissioner and to the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of my department at this stage, there are no matters that require my immediate attention.
The messaging on this issue has already been so confused, and while Christian Porter has every right to reject the allegations, it further muddies the debate about when we should take such serious allegations seriously. Last month, the Prime Minister said this.
I have listened to Brittany. Jenny and I spoke last night, and she said to me, you have to think about this as a father first. What would you want to happen if it were our girls?
What do you make of the rhetoric and the way he's handled those allegations?
It shouldn't take having children to have a conscience. And actually, on top of that, having children doesn't guarantee a conscience.
The public are entitled to expect the highest standards of probity from the Attorney-General. The bar is not whether they have been found guilty of a crime beyond reasonable doubt, or even whether they have been charged with one. And also that in public office, the perception of integrity is important, not just the fact of it. This is now the issue the Prime Minister, who is standing by his Attorney-General, has to consider.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.